She's a geek girl in a geek world. She's a geek at all with her heart and soul. She's a geek girl.
Welcome! This is Geek Girl TV and I'm your Geek Girl host, Eve Park, the girl who can boil ramen on her CPU. No, seriously. It's a real problem. So recently I upgraded my video card situation on my home-built PC, exasperating existing airflow problems. Overheating related crashes have become so frequent that now I'm afraid to even turn it on. If I haven't fried something expensive already, I'm definitely going to if I keep trying to run it like that. Although the internet is plentiful with information, mostly written by somebody trying to sell you something, it can sometimes be difficult to cull the diamonds from the rough. Which is why I'm asking you, my new viewer friends, to help me out. Please send me input or suggestions to help me remedy my situation at geekgirl@clevermedia.com. I'd really appreciate it. Here's some of the options I've considered so far. Number 1, buy a bigger, better, or different case. Arthur thinks that's the solution. You see, for years, I've been sporting this acrylic case from Think Geek. His theory is that despite the locations of the fans, which are a fairly typical layout, and appear to be well placed to cool the layout of my particular motherboard, that the plastic doesn't dissipate heat as efficiently as a regular metal case. While this may be true, I don't know how much heat is dissipated from the walls of a case as opposed to through the fans. Additionally, I'm hesitant to abandon my case because I admit I'm emotionally attached to it. It's just plain cool. And although all the money I've invested in my computer so far has been towards utilitarian components, I still have dreams of blinging it up someday. So in conclusion, I don't want to move on to a new case unless I'm more sure that it's really necessary. So do you or anyone you know have an acrylic case? And do they have an overheating problem? I have had more overheating problems than anyone else I know. In fact, they predate this case. And I'm not even overclocking. Number 2, buy a Mac. If you're a Mac head, you're probably bored by my predicament. Just buy a Mac. So many solutions in just 3 little words. But no go. There are also 3 expensive little words. A Mac just isn't in the cards for me at this time. PCs are just so much more affordable. If you need a new video card, you just buy a new video card. You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Number 3, liquid cooling. Now that's a cool solution. I've dreamed about installing a liquid cooling system and naming my computer Nave ever since I first saw Serial Experiments Lane. And although a small liquid cooling system is comparable in price to a new case, I mentioned that my overheating problem is chronic, so I'm pretty sure I'd need a scalable system that could be expanded from the CPU to each video card and to each hard drive, if necessary, which could really add up. So this really isn't a direction that I can afford to go if it's not going to make enough of a difference. And I'm continually surprised about how little information is out there, and most of it written by the people who are selling it, considering this technology has been around for several years. It makes me wonder if the technology is ever going to take off. And if it doesn't, maybe it's because it wasn't all it was cracked up to be in the first place. I don't know anyone who's installed one. Do you? If you have any thoughts or information on the subject, please let me know. Or maybe you have a suggestion I haven't even thought of yet. Please send them to geekgirl@clevermedia.com. Please? I'd really like to get up running again. But enough about my stupid computer, because it's that time of year again. What time of year? It's time to give to Child's Play. You know what Child's Play is. Or maybe you don't. Well, you know how much you like games, right? And how much you like to play them? Well, about 3 years ago, Jerry and Michael at Penny Arcade were thinking the same thing. So it got them thinking. Maybe there were people in the world a lot less fortunate who would like to play games as much as they did. And they came up with the idea that it would be really great to give video games to sick kids who could really use the cheering up. Well, as generous as that seems, they didn't just give an Xbox to a children's hospital. They mobilized their viewership by organizing a yearly toy drive, known as Child's Play. And now, 3 years later, they've collected and distributed over $1 million to hospitals around the world. So this holiday season, you're probably going to bag a few Xbox games for yourself, but consider a donation to Child's Play as well. It could make a big difference in the life of some poor kid who's sick in the hospital. Check it out at childsplaycharity.org. In the news this week, GamePolitics.com reports that Doug Lowenstein of the ESA says that the very term video game gives the industry a bad name. Using terms like interactive entertainment or entertainment software would help mitigate negative press. I remember using these terms when talking to my career counselor in college to make it sound like video games was actually a viable career path. Although now that I'm here, I love telling people that I make video games for a living. I relish the fact that it makes my job sound like it's all fun and games. We'll see if Lowenstein's suggestion catches on. What? The new viewers don't know I make video games for a living? Well, yeah. Go to gamescene.com and check out the over 150 free web-based games we have available. My favorite letter this week was in Flemish. Well, luckily it was translated. Pretty cool, huh? I love getting mail from all around the world. But if that weren't enough, they also told me their superpower. If I were a superhero, what would be my name? Difficult and even more tricky to translate, but I'll give it a shot. In that case, I would like to be known by the name of the Spore, and I would have the bizarre ability to disintegrate into a cloud of spores of all kinds of mosses, yeast, or fungi. Depending on what evil power I was confronted with, I would send a specific kind of spore in his direction, devouring him from the inside or overgrowing him, and thus suffocating. And of course, a cloud of spores is airborne and able to travel wherever. That is indeed a very creative superpower. If you haven't already, why don't you send me an email? Tell me if you were a superhero, what would your name and superpower be? Send it to geekgirl@clevermedia.com. But before I go, I have to tell you about a very special email I received from Carl. Remember Carl? Mr. Cellophane. He sent me this week's theme song. Thanks, Carl. I'm proud to use it to kick off Geek Girl, but I'm still looking for more. So sing me a 20-second intro and you'll probably get to see me dance to it. No time this week to meet another one of the great geeks I interviewed at Majesticon. Next up is Steve Hawes, the funny guy with the white face makeup that I used as a teaser at the end of last episode. He was hilarious. I know you'll like him. So you have that to look forward to. See you next week.
Meow.